Whew. All right, I'm grounding myself. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this together, me and you. If I continue this series, I'm gonna get high blood pressure issues. Hi and welcome back to Orbiting the Shelf, where today I am reading 1-star reviews of my favorite books, and today we are looking at Grave Empire by Richard Swan, book number 1 in his newest series. Now, this is by no means like one of my favorite books of all time. It's just one of my favorite books of the year. I greatly enjoyed it. You can see my review for it here. It was good. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It certainly had its flaws. There were a little bit of pacing issues. The Renata chapters were just like a little bit boring, but overall I really enjoyed it. And if you're aware of Richard Swan, if you know Ball, he's a good fantasy author. His Empire of the Wolf series was really good. Hold on a second. You. I see you. Are you scrolling through the bottom recommended tab right now, thinking about switching away from my video? Dude. It's okay. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I get it. I should have worked on my hook. I know, I should have worked a little bit harder on it. But if you feel guilty and you want to make it up to me, go ahead and click like and subscribe and watch at least half of the video. It's going to be a short one today, I promise. You have my word. There's no 30-minute long deep dives on characters and plot and prose. Today's video's fun. It's just fun, I promise. It's okay. I've already forgotten about it. I know, I'm a good guy. You don't have to thank me. Calm down. I'm wiping the memory from my brain right. Boom, it's done. I've already forgotten. You hold up your end, I'll hold up my end. We'll have a good time. Alright, jumping right into it, review number 1. This one hurt my soul. It's by the Reformed Reader, who also has a YouTube channel with 1 video on it. Why, Mr. Swan? Just why? I was looking Why, Mr. Swan? Just why? I was looking forward to this book. I loved the previous trilogy. Then you just had to include 2 married men. It had 0 bearing on the story. Now some of you may wonder why I would DNF a book for such a small passing glance of a reference to a same-sex couple. The real question is, if it has no consequence on the story, in any way, why would he include it? If not for the sole purpose of virtue signaling to the gay community. It's because of that I put this book down. If he's going to pander to that group for whatever reason, notoriety, paycheck, etc., and deliberately ostracize Christians by projecting that this relationship is good, well then I'm out. Because gay marriages in fantasy are chaotically evil aligned. I'm sorry, it's in the rule book. I didn't make the rules, alright? They're chaotic evil. I'm not a homophobe or a racist, alright? It's how the game masters made it. It's like having a lawful good dragon, alright? It doesn't make any sense. It's not me. It's the genre convention. We're sick of it. Sick of the active push for inclusion. Sick of the active push for inclusion into everything. Sick of everything from books to TV, having to complain explicit scenes, nudity, and gratuitous language. Write a good story with compelling characters, and people will like it. Oh well, on to something else.
Hashtag fantasy bookstagram, hashtag fantasy reader, hashtag sci-fi fantasy, hashtag book nerd, hashtag bookstagram, hashtag grimdark fantasy, hashtag booktube, hashtag reformed reader,
hashtag reformed Christian,
hashtag reformed, hashtag sick of it.
This one was so f***ing stupid, I had to include it. If you're not familiar with what he's referencing, literally in like the first or second chapter of the book, right after the prologue, Renata, the diplomat, is put on a sort of like military expedition mission to the Stygian, and Colonel Glazer, I think is who it is, he's like, so you're the diplomat to the Stygian mermen, huh? My husband has made dinner, you are invited. And that's it. It's literally one sentence, like, my husband has made you dinner, come over to my house for a nice pot roast. It's not an attack on Christianity. It's not an attack on religious people. You're just being a sensitive little bitch. If you DNF a book because there's a hint that a man is in a loving relationship with another man, and it's not explored or like talked about, if you're not forced to read a sex scene, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you are a snowflake. It's really funny how they say this little quip about a gay man in the very beginning of the book is an attack on Christianity and like an attack on their moral values and their ethical values, so he can't read it. This sort of line of thinking when it comes to fantasy readers and sci-fi readers empires is never shared in any other sense. Will they read a book with a magic system? Yes. That's wrong. That's witchcraft. Will they read books where people are wearing clothes of multiple weaves? Yes. All right, so if you've ever worn a polyester piece of clothing, I'm sorry, that's an attack on your Christian values. Take those Nike Pros off right now, mister. Will they read books with murder? That's against the Ten Commandments, directly against God. They will. Will you read books where people steal, lie, talk back to their parents? If the answer is yes, you might just be a hypocrite. Not to mention, being gay is not even like mentioned past the Old Testament. It's literally, unless you want to take some stuff super out of context, it's never mentioned past the Old Testament. It's just like eating shellfish. Most modern Christians believe Jesus died on the cross, saved us from all of our sins. We no longer have to sacrifice animals or our sons and daughters, God forbid, to make up for our sins. We can eat shellfish. We can wear clothing of multiple weaves. Essentially, Jesus dying on the cross erased like almost all of the Old Testament rules. We no longer have to wait in the womb of Abraham. We go to heaven. But they really cling on to that one thing. That one time someone said not to kiss boys. They're like, all right, shellfish? Got it. Edible. Polyester clothes? Totally fine. But you still can't kiss boys. He said that. It's very clear. It was very clear 5,000 years ago you couldn't do that. And you go, all right, well, you're eating lobster right now. And they go, well, that's taken out of context. Like, all right, you're eating a cow. That's a hooved animal. It's an ungulate. It's dirty. And they go, no. That was in the Old Testament. And you go, okay, so was being gay. And they go, you're cherry picking. Oh, you're taking it out of context. You know God doesn't like boys. Oh, get out of here. All right, Gina, 1-star review says, a lot of better reviews mention getting this book for free, albeit in a roundabout manner. So keep that in mind. Wish I read more reviews before starting this. I didn't even get to the second chapter because the language is so boring, trite, basic, it's uninteresting and dry, and the depiction of his guide's speech seems a bit yikes. As a side note, only a man would use the word unmolested so cavalierly, and on the second page of the book, no less. I'm anti-trigger warnings, but geez, this just feels ignorant. So you're anti-trigger warning, but you're mad that he used the word unmolested? I hate to break it to you, but the word unmolested is not just a word used in a sexual manner. In fact, the word unmolested predates its sexual use by quite a few years. If this Diet Dr. Pepper can were closed and sealed, it would be unmolested.
I've never done anything like this before.
Okay, calm down. Look, I'm not a cop.
But because I have opened it and drank its contents, it is now molested. That is the definition of the word. I think perhaps you might want to keep a dictionary beside your reading table, because the word unmolested doesn't mean what you think it means. Believe it or not, some words have more than one meaning. It's crazy. I know. I'm sorry if I just blew your mind. It's a touchy subject. Adjectives. All right. Athenesis's review. Athenesis? Athensius? Anyways, you know he's smart and you know what he's talking about because he has a Greek statue as his profile picture. This man is clearly a philosopher, a stoic, an academic. If anyone knows ball, Athanasius on Goodreads knows ball. I bet he looks just like this carved marble statue. Average mid-tier fantasy. The characters are wooden and the plot somewhat absurd, but Swan is quasi-proficient as a writer, which is more than can be said of most authors in the genre. The novel suffers from woke diversity quotas, though this is likely the publisher's fault, which detracts from the realism of the work. Female infantry soldiers, colonels with husbands, sneaky pronoun references, all the powerful characters save one being women, etc. Perhaps these things wouldn't be as jarring in a more developed fantastical setting, but Swan takes the Abercrombie easy approach and is writing pseudo-historical fiction, i.e., real-world historical epoch with slight fantasy interjections. Sova is basically the British Empire, Casimir is the French, the New East is the American frontier, and we have the musketry, cannonade, tricorn hats, etc. of history but with female soldiers and other neoliberal contemporary Western culture mores overlaid. Whilst Swan displays decent prose, the pacing is inconsistent and he seems to struggle a tad with action scenes, particularly the transition between static and dynamic situations. The Stygian, mermen, portion of the novel was a highlight and showcased solid creativity and novelty, though the Kassar, basically the Afrikaans werewolves, were thoroughly uninspired, and that section of the book felt rushed and ill-planned. I'm unsure if I could be bothered reading the second book in the trilogy when it is released. The characters and plot just aren't compelling enough. I hate to break it to fellow Chad, scholar, philosopher, and academic Athanasius, but as a veteran, an infantry veteran no less, I met quite a few women in the modern day infantry, which, believe it or not, is even harder on your body than the infantry back then was. You have anywhere from 30 to 80 pounds of gear on your back, depending on the position. You're moving more, under more weight every day in a battlefield that is far more complex than anything ever in human history. And on top of that, they have to have a much higher academic standard to be able to make it in. They have to be able to problem solve, use a diverse arsenal of technologically based weapons. They have to be able to drive Bradleys, drive Humvees. So if you can suspend your disbelief high enough to believe in cannibalistic ancient gods turning men into cat-panther hybrids, if you can suspend your disbelief high enough to accept that there's an evil count somewhere in the world of Sova turning men into capitalistic zombies to expand his overhead, if you can believe that there's a soul plague going around, you're telling me you can't believe in the very real concept of women in the infantry? In fact, of the women in the infantry, because there aren't many, it's not really a job that appeals to women, especially women who are physically gifted. Most of them were absolute units. And most of the time, this rhetoric comes from dudes who have never so much as walked into a recruiter's office and are super ignorant to the military, how it works, how it performs, who's in it. Overall, super fucking ignorant comment. This is one of those dudes that definitely hides behind the facade of being like a fucking intellectual and is in reality just an absolute neckbeard fucking degenerate. Also, colonels with husbands. Brother, the governor of my state has a husband. Who cares if the colonel has a husband? And once again, speaking from someone in the infantry who openly dated a trans woman while I was in the infantry, you want to talk about hard? That was hard. That's how you develop thick skin. Like, legitimately, of my platoon was full of hitters, all right? And I wasn't very good at my job, I'll never lie. I was not like a super good soldier. Like, 7 of the 30 dudes got out and came out as gay. One of the dudes who came out as gay went to ranger school, passed, went to sniper section, did really well, and then went on to like the SF like Q course. I don't know how he did. I still follow him on Instagram, and he's crazy, dude. He's a hitter. In fact, one of my squad leaders, because I had quite a few, so I'm not outing anybody, actually ended up coming out as gay on one of the deployments they were on, and he was stacked. He had been airborne, he had been EIB, CIB, multiple deployments. The dude was by all means a hero, and he was gay. Like, you wouldn't believe how many gay dudes serve in combat arms. They never let anybody know. They do their job super well, just like anybody else, and they get out. If you can suspend your disbelief for demons and aliens and witches and all this other crazy shit going on in the book, you can suspend your disbelief enough to think a colonel might just love a man. All right?
And they're both boys.
I don't know how gay people ruin realism in fantasy. Why is the word realism even coming to mind in your fantasy book? There's a reason we read fantasy. All right, I don't jump into the world of Lord of the Rings and go, well, it was a really good book until Tolkien started talking about fucking orcs. What the fuck, Tolkien? Where's your sense of realism? Ugh. There's bear werewolves in The Hobbit? Disgusting. Ugh. Bilbo's wearing clothes of multiple weaves. Ugh. They're riding ungulates. That's so dirty. How are they gonna make it into the womb of Abraham? Alright, the last review honestly makes me thankful. Like, it's kind of cool just to read a review of someone who's dumb instead of someone who's like just a willing piece of shit. And I'll go ahead and block out their picture here because I am gonna make fun of them a little bit. Unfortunately, DNF'd at 40%. I just was too confused and nothing was making sense. And I wasn't following it at all. My brain may be too small for this one. Just no connection to the book, and I promise myself to start DNFing books this year, even though I usually hate to do that. And the person who commented below says, "Nope, your brain is not small. I am an avid fantasy reader and I was disoriented the whole time too. I had to keep looking up at the map for directions." And this, thankfully, is a much more blood pressure lowering complaint. I could be wrong, but I think this one's on you. Anyways, that's my time. I've been Matt. You've been great. Thank you so much for your view, your like, your time. Time, I always say, is the only thing more important than money. And thank you for clicking on my video out of literally all the other videos listed down here. Maybe I'll get lucky and another one's mine, but that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.